Hey friends, welcome back to 6 Hearts on 6 Acres. My name's Bree and we are in my basement grow station this morning. I want to talk to you about tips on how to care for your seedlings, all the way from when that seed germinates and pops up until these plants are ready to go into the ground. And then after that, we will take a look at all the seedlings I've started in here and just do a little seedling update because you were with me when I planted most of these. So, great news, your seeds have germinated. You put these seeds into the soil, got it wet, and then anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks later, you have little seedlings pop up. So what do you do now? When at least 50% of these seedlings have popped up, you can go ahead and remove your humidity dome and remove your heat mat if you had those on your plants. This is a humidity dome. These just cover the tray while your seeds are germinating to lock in moisture so your seeds don't dry out in the germination process. The reason that you want to remove this is because if you keep your seedlings covered, it can cause issues with fungus or dampening off, algae growth, those types of things. So it's just a really good rule of thumb, once 50% are up, to remove this. These are the heat mats that I use. They go underneath a tray while your seeds are germinating. You plug it in and it just raises the temperature of that tray, I think like 7 to 10 degrees. Not a lot, but enough to just really help with germination and also to speed it up. Now, most seeds, a heat mat is not absolutely necessary, but it does increase the speed at which they'll germinate. But for a few seedlings like peppers, most importantly, a heat mat is pretty essential because they like a really warm soil to germinate in. Once your plants germinate, though, you do want to remove this because it tends to cause your soil to dry out quickly, and also they needed that heat to germinate, but they don't necessarily need it to grow. So your seedlings have germinated and they're beginning to grow and look really beautiful. This is a tray of several different varieties of basil. What does this tray of basil need now that I have actual growing healthy plants? We have true leaves, not just the cotyledon. This plant, most importantly, needs light. Plants need a minimum of 12 to 14 hours of light per day. Now, I grow in my basement, and so I use these LED strip lights to give that supplemental light. If you have a super sunny area in your home, you can attempt to use that. I will tell you, and maybe I just don't have a sunny enough window, that anytime I have tried to grow like that, I ended up with really leggy, unhealthy, not strong seedlings. And so I would really recommend, if you can do supplemental light, I think that's how you're going to get the healthiest seedlings. These are not expensive grow lights. They are just LED strip like garage lights, and they work perfect. I've been using them for years. These plants also need water. Now, I always put my plants, they're obviously in their little container to hold the soil, but underneath that, I use Bootstrap Farmer 1020 trays, but you want something that can hold water because these seedlings grow best and healthiest when you bottom water them. What does that mean? It means that you're going to pour the water into this 1020 tray or whatever you have holding your seedlings. I have used baking dishes, I have used cookie sheets, I have used aluminum tinfoil pans. In a pinch, I have even used a humidity dome. So anything that will hold water, and then you can then sit that seedling in that water and let the water soak up from the bottom, is going to be the healthiest for your plants. It keeps the leaves from getting moisture on them, which is going to prevent any fungal problems while you're inside a space like this. It also lets your seedlings soak up as much water as they need and no more, so you don't end up with dampening off or roots that can't grow because they're just fully saturated. Now, it is important when you're bottom watering that you don't put a ton of water in here and just let your seedlings sit in water for days. That is going to cause you issues. So put an inch or so of water in here, let them set for an hour or two, and then just take this tray over a sink and dump off the excess water once your plants have absorbed what they need. Plants at this stage also need air circulation and movement. The best way to do that is just put an oscillating fan in your environment. That is just going to keep these plants with fresh air circulating around them. That's going to help with fungus gnats. That's going to help with dampening off with algae growth and fungal growth, all of those types of things, any types of molds that may grow on your soil. But it also keeps these plants just kind of wiggling throughout the day. It's going to stimulate the stem to grow much stronger, just as if the wind would if these plants were outside. So a light fan just blowing on these softly. You don't want hurricane force winds coming on here, but just something softly to just keep them wiggling a little bit throughout the day really strengthens your plant and keeps it super healthy. If you don't have a fan to put in your area, you can just a few times a day come down and rub your hand over your plants. That's going to do the same thing for root strength for them. Unfortunately, obviously, it does not help with air circulation, which is also necessary. So if you can, invest in a fan for your seedling area. These are my straw flower. Look how beautiful they're doing. When a seedling first germinates, these first 2 leaves are called cotyledon. Cotyledon contain all of the nutrition this plant needs to sustain itself until it has true leaves. You can see these ones are just starting to come on. Once you have a full set or 2 of true leaves, this plant then needs fertilizer, especially if you're growing in a seed starting mix that has no nutrition in it whatsoever. Right now at this seed growth stage, they need something super high in nitrogen. I prefer this Alaskan fish fertilizer. Smells terrible, works wonderful. This fish fertilizer is liquid. It's 5% nitrogen, and I just mix it in with my watering once a week, and I bottom water with it. I am going to experiment doing foliar feeds in my garden this year, but for my seedlings so far, I am just bottom watering. That works well for me. To fertilize my seedlings with this fertilizer, you want to use half strength. So I just put a little glug of this into a gallon of water, and then I go through and bottom water all of my trays. Your seed starting area is going to smell horrible, like rotten, dead, decaying fish. I mean, it's bad. But you are going to see tremendous growth on your seedlings. They're going to be the most beautiful green color. They're going to be healthy, and they're going to be strong. And it's almost worth the smell that comes with this stuff. Depending on how you plant, I may have skipped a step for you. So some plants, when I'm seeding out, I very carefully put 1 seed per cell. I let that germinate. I can then keep it watered and fertilized, and I don't have to do anything else. But some plants, I multi-sow. So I put multiple seeds in 1 seed cell. I let them grow big enough to have a set of true leaves, to have a nice stem, and then at this point, I need to separate these seedlings. That's a really important step not to miss, because seedlings need their own space and they need their own resources. There's definitely not enough room in this tray to grow 5 tomatoes. It's important that I take these out and give each one their own space so they don't have to fight for access to water or access to that fish fertilizer nutrition or access to soil to grow their roots. You're going to end up with a lot stronger, healthier plant if they have a decent amount of growing space. Some people choose to just snip off at the soil level the extra plants, and some people, like myself, will take this entire cell out and separate each of these seedlings. I multi-sow for the purpose of growing a lot of plants, and so snipping them off would defeat my purpose. But tomatoes at this size really easily separate, as well as a lot of other plants, and so I have found that separating them is no problem, and I just up-pot them into a bigger pot at that time. I up-potted these tomatoes. They were started at the same time as these ones, but I did these ones last week, And you can tell they have already put on a ton of new growth. They just really thrive in having all of that extra room to stretch out their roots, to grab up that extra nutrition, and to grow. When my plants are at that point where they have germinated, they have outgrown their little seedling cell, and they have been up potted into their own 3-inch pot, typically I can let them just hang out here until it is time to go into the garden. They have plenty of room in these 3-inch pots to have a huge amount of root growth and to grow a nice big healthy plant that is, one, ready to go out to the garden. It's a good size for that. But also importantly, it's not so big that I'm outgrowing my seed station. I have done that before. These plants are going to be ready to go into the garden in about a month, and they are just thriving and doing absolutely beautiful with all of these steps that we've taken that I have talked you through today. If I am missing anything that you have questions on, please ask me in the comments. I am happy to help you as much as possible, share my knowledge with you. I am definitely not a master gardener, but I have been gardening for several years. I absolutely love it, and I get better every single year. Gardening is a journey, and it's one that I'm happy to be on with you guys. Now for the fun part. Let's do our update on all of our seedlings. I think we're actually going to start out with this tray. Oh, as I knock stuff down. This is actually a tray of seedlings that I did not grow, that I purchased from a local garden center. Rosemary is something that dies off every single year in my winter, and it's really slow growing, so I like to just purchase those as starts, as well as some lavender. Now, lavender does overwinter here, and I have 2 out in the garden that did overwinter, but there's something that grows incredibly slow, and this whole plant was $1. So I definitely purchased those from the garden store. I also have here a container of sweet banana peppers. Now, that's not because they're hard to grow. It's because I thought I had seedlings for these, and by the time it was time to plant and I went through my packets, I realized I did not have sweet banana peppers, and I promised them to my mom. So I just purchased these. I am going to go ahead and get these up potted today into a bigger container so they can have that explosive root growth and have a huge healthy plant ready to go into the garden in a month. And then moving on to the things that we did grow here in the garden. Starting off with our spicy peppers. Now, if you look, you can see a big difference here. These 3 are Sugar Rush peach peppers. Hot peppers germinate incredibly slow, and by the time I was ready to up pot most of these, I barely had these 2 Sugar Rush peach just germinating. I went ahead and up potted them as well because I didn't just want one, but they are growing so slowly. So I'm not actually 100% sure if they are going to thrive and go into my garden, but we will see. Hot peppers, just as a general rule, grow really slowly and stay at this stage for quite a while, and then they tend to just put on a lot of growth at once. This one luckily is looking beautiful. I have Aleppo peppers, Megatron jalapenos, and it looks like that's it on this tray. I have the KRGB bell peppers. I have purple smudge, which have the prettiest purple outline on the leaves. I have some orange cayennes. These are looking beautiful. I have a tiny red cherry pepper. It is the only one that germinated out of the 4-pack of that I planted. So I'm really hoping to grow this plant, but we will see. I have some Numex Joe Parkers. These put on huge spicy peppers. Next up is a mixed tray. I have some little heart peppers. I have some YOLO peppers. Another KRGB. They have huge leaves. And then this half of the tray is orange sherbet carnations. I've never grown these before. I'm kind of wondering if I should pinch them because they're getting really tall. I need to do some research on that. But I'm super excited to add these to my garden this year. This tray over here is kind of going wild. These plants have definitely outgrown their pots. These are Russian status. They are beautiful flowers. They're a great pot filler. And they are just kind of wild plants, which I love. I'm also growing Canterbury bells. And one of my most exciting seedlings. This thing definitely takes some patience, but it is going to be a superfood if I can get it to grow. This is called moringa. It is a tree. They don't live through our winters here, but they grow between 12 to 18 feet just in our growing season. The leaves on this tree are an absolute superfood. So I plan to collect those, freeze dry them, powder them, and add them to everything. Down here I have another tray of peppers. I have some red Corno de Toros, some Lesias, some paprikas, and some shishitos. You can see the top of these cells look dry, and that is what you want. You do not want a completely saturated seedling cell. These are pretty light, so they're about time to water, which is perfect because we're going to fertilize today. Here is another tray of peppers. These are more shishitos, some violet sparkles, some Due de España, which is a huge bell pepper. I'm super excited about those this year. They are new to my garden. And then on this shelf, I have my tomatoes that I just up-potted last week. These are looking absolutely beautiful. Let's see if I can get you. There we go. They look great. The stem is getting nice and thick and solid. The leaves are beautiful. I have so many varieties of tomatoes. I went with 50 different varieties this year, and I just cannot wait to have walls of tomatoes everywhere. I have more tomatoes back here. I still need to up-pot these, and that is my goal for the day. I also in this area planted loofah. I have planted this twice, and the first time I didn't get anything to germinate. I think they're just really slow because this one finally just popped up this week. It looks like that cell is starting to pop up. Hopefully I'll see some growth in these other two. And then over here is more moringa, it looks like. I will very quickly get these moved into bigger containers because zucchini and squash family plants don't like their roots to be disturbed, so I need to get this out before it has much root growth. And the moringa is a tree, so obviously it needs to be in a much bigger container. I already showed you my straw flower, but look how absolutely beautiful these plants are. I'm growing two different varieties here. The Rogley Reason straw flower, which is multiple different colors in a variety pack. And then over here I have the king size silver rose straw flower, not strawberries. This is an entire tray of basil, and look how pretty these purple ones are. These are red Reuben basil. Basil is an excellent plant to grow beside your tomatoes. It keeps pests away. It makes your tomatoes taste better, they say. And obviously, if you're growing a lot of tomatoes, you're probably canning a lot of sauce, and this basil is excellent for that. They're great for pollinators. They're also beautiful in your flower arrangements. They throw up these really tall stalks of beautiful flowers that I love to throw in all my vases. Down here I have more tomatoes. Lots and lots of them. We have our purple sweet potatoes that we grew last year working on growing slips, and I am starting to see some, which is super exciting. I also threw some ginger in here to see if I could grow some ginger in my garden this year. That is an experiment. We'll see how it goes. I wasn't lying when I said I love basil. I have more here. These are Genovese, large leaf Italian, lemon basil, which smells absolutely incredible, like the best lemon candy. And then over here I have some white Dionis, I'm probably butchering that, but carnations, and some serious blue salvia. Down here in the bottom, we have a lot more peppers. I have lipstick and shishito and lilac bell peppers in this tray. I have poblano peppers and habaneros and purple beauties and black peppers in this tray. And then another tray of tomatoes. Up here, I have some more of that Dionis white carnation. I have a Rose Rhapsody Salvia. I planted out a whole tray of these. This is the only one that germinated, and it's a huge plant. So I'm really curious to see. This is a new plant for my garden this year. This is just some serious blue salvia next to it. I have some gomphrena back here. These are beautiful vase fillers as well. Some violet asters. Some lemon mint bee balm. I'm excited about this. Obviously, this is going to go into a pot and not take over my whole garden. But I'm excited to have that. I've heard it smells really good, makes excellent tea. And then here are two more varieties of basil because you can never have enough. This is lettuce leaf basil. They're super crinkly. They get huge. And then Thai basil, which is great for tea. This has some peppers that are finally ready to up pot. I let them hang out a little bit longer because they were growing slow, but these are some golden cal, some golden rain, candy cane, nata pino, Jimmy Nardello, some yolo, and some violet sparkle. Here I have some echinacea, which I'm super excited about adding to my garden this year for beauty and for medicinal purposes. And then more peppers. I know I have a ridiculous amount of peppers and tomatoes. I don't just grow for myself. I grow for my parents and my siblings and for some friends as well. But also my garden is going to be absolutely loaded with tomatoes and peppers this year. And then lastly, what I have planted right now is this tray of marigolds. These two trays are full of Kilimanjaro white, which is an African marigold. They get really big and tall and have the prettiest flowers with a long stem. And then these are your typical French marigolds that work great as companion plants throughout your garden. And then over here, you see some empty trays. I don't know what's going on there. These were Snow Princess calendula and not a single one germinated. But I also have some Sunset Buff calendula and some Balls Orange calendula, some Dwarf Fiesta calendula, Pink Surprise, some borage, which if you have never seen that, these are the coolest plants. They have the prettiest little blue flowers that taste like cucumbers. They are a bee magnet in the garden. And then those two empty trays back here, one is cucamelon and one is violet aster. I'm hoping to get some germination on those, but they are just taking a little bit longer. I think that is all that I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. I love being able to share with you. I am also super excited because I'm going to be setting up my freeze dryer today, and I'm going to, of course, film all of that. You can expect to see that in a video here in the coming weeks, and I will see you soon for tons of gardening inspiration, from scratch cooking, food preservation, all of the small homestead things. Thank you so much for being here. Leave me a comment, like this video, share it with your friends, and until I see you next time, may God bless.